Hello there. I just have the kettle on for some tea. You should join me. I'm having some Yorkshire Gold. That is probably my favorite tea. And I think, yeah, I think the kettle has nearly boiled. I don't know if you can see the steam rising. Oh, that's good. Like the dragon's breath. Okay. It's rumbling, it's rolling. It is early January, at the start of a new year. And, oh, there's a cat outside the window. Hi, kitty. I love that I get to see cats and squirrels and sometimes rabbits and stuff out there. And birds. Yeah, that should be good. All right, let's go. I'm having some scone that I made the other day, very recently anyway. How's that? Yeah, all right, I'll just let that steep for a minute. Maybe I'll readjust you there a little bit. I'm gonna light a candle. So, this pineapple jam that I have is kind of connected to our last visit that we had together here. I had ginger cookies that I'd made with my friend, and then I decided to bring some of them over to my neighbor Linda. I always pass by her place on my way to and from work. Ooh, there's a light. And so I'd had the cookies with me. I decided to drop by and bring her some ginger cookies. Yeah, it was just really good to catch up a little bit. And then before I left, she gave me some of her pineapple jam as a Christmas gift in return. And so I had to make scones in order to properly appreciate this. Whoops, oh, that's very warm. Maybe I'll leave that here. Okay, so I've warmed up the scones so that the butter should be able to melt onto it. That's pretty good. I hope you've had a good holiday, a good new year, and are settling into January. Here, I'll share a bit with you. Today I wanted to read from one of my favorite authors, perhaps my second favorite author, Jane Austen. And I'll get to that in a bit, once I've gotten into this scone. Yeah, I began reading Jane Austen after I saw the 2005 film version of Pride and Prejudice when I was a teenager, and then I read Pride and Prejudice, the novel, and then I read all of the others, listening on LibriVox, and I just continued to read her over the years and read her more and more frequently now, so that most years I read at least all the main 6 novels, and often sometimes reread a couple. And I read them with my sisters, and we talk about them. And yeah, a continued sense of joy and comfort that I get from Jane Austen, and wisdom, I think, as well. I'm going to try a bite of this. Oops, it's falling to pieces. Oh man, that's good. Yeah, and the pineapple jam is perfect. Okay. So, I have 2 copies of Northanger Abbey by Jane Austen. And the second copy that I have, I found in one of those little free libraries in my neighborhood. If you're not familiar, it's like people have a box that they usually put in a post or something in front of their house, and leave books in it that anyone can take, and anyone can come and leave some books or come and take some books. So I was checking out what was there, and I didn't intend to take this because I already have a copy. Um, but then I happened to open it and flip through it a little bit, and I found, I don't know how well you can see, I found notes in the margins, and I found things underlined, and I can't always make out what's being said by the previous annotator. Um, a lot of underlinings, a lot of writings in the margin, and I love a an amateur annotation. I love marginalia in a book, so I picked that up anyway. And I may eventually, maybe I should go and put this one back, because I don't really need to have 2 copies, but or find someone else to give this to. But I could return it in its place, or and maybe someone else will annotate it. Um, yeah, so I do love marginalia, and I think you might I may show you a little bit of what they put in there. But in the meantime, I'm going to get my tea. Okay. Oh, actually, you got to come see this being poured in. It's beautiful. All right. Hmm. It's good stuff. I need some more scone. Try not to light myself on fire in the process. That's good. Okay. So Northanger Abbey is one that Jane Austen wrote relatively early. I don't know exactly if it's her first novel, but it was sold to a publisher who then didn't end up publishing it. And then, so towards the end of her life, it actually was. And there is, like, I think, an introduction, or it may have been actually just after her death that it was finally put into publication, I think, alongside Persuasion, which was one of the last things that she wrote. So I think she has a little introduction in it explaining that why it wasn't, that it wasn't published before, and like maybe a few things that may have changed in the intervening years. But it's one of her, perhaps her, I think her youngest heroine. Um, and it is very, I find a very humorous book. Maybe leaning more into that than some of the others. Uh, and it's a genre parody, really. I think both of Gothic novels, which were popular in the time, and it's a loving parody. It's quite affectionate, both to the heroine who could be said to be quite naive, and I'm very fond of Catherine Morland. I feel like I resonate with her a lot. I'm an optimist myself, but just and then she gets to grow and learn throughout the course of the novel. Um, so it is the character herself, Catherine Morland, is a huge fan of novels. And so Jane Austen even has a little aside where she talks about the fact that, like, pointing out that often in novels the characters don't read novels themselves. But she's like, no, my character is going to to read novels, even though she's in a novel. But so the part that I'm going to read is further into it as Catherine Morland is going with the young man that she admires, is on the way to visit his family at Northanger Abbey, hence the title. And she's very excited by the idea of going to this old sort of Gothic architectural place, and like has a little bit in her mind like strong associations for what kind of adventures that she might find there. So here, oh yeah, so at one point in their conversation, as they're driving on the way, so Henry Tilney is the young man. Catherine says, he mentions that you have formed a very favorable idea of the Abbey. To be sure I have. Is it not a fine old place, just like what one reads about? And, he responds, and are you prepared to encounter all the horrors that a building, such as what one reads about, may produce? Have you a stout heart, nerves fit for sliding panels and tapestry? Oh, yes. I do not think I should be easily frightened, because there would be so many people in the house. And besides, it has never been uninhabited and left deserted for years, and then the family come back to it unawares without giving any notice, as generally happens. No, certainly. We shall not have to explore our way into the hall, dimly lighted by the expiring embers of a wood fire, nor be obliged to spread our beds on the floor of a room without windows, doors, or furniture. But you must be aware that when a young lady is, by whatever means, introduced into a dwelling of this kind, she is always lodged apart from the rest of the family. While they snugly repair to their own end of the house, she is formally conducted by Dorothy, the ancient housekeeper, up a different staircase, and along many gloomy passages into an apartment never used since some cousin or kin died in it about 20 years before. Can you stand such a ceremony as this? Will not your mind misgive you when you find yourself in this gloomy chamber, too lofty and extensive for you, with only the feeble rays of a single lamp to take in its size, its walls hung with tapestry exhibiting figures as large as life, and the bed of a dark green stuff or purple velvet, presenting even a funereal appearance? Will not your heart sink within you? Oh, but this will not happen to me, I am sure. How fearfully will you examine the furniture of your apartment, and what will you discern? Not tables, toilettes, wardrobes, or drawers, but on one side perhaps the remains of a broken lute, on the other a ponderous chest which no efforts can open. Over the fireplace the portrait of some handsome warrior whose features will so incomprehensibly strike you that you will not be able to withdraw your eyes from it. Dorothy, meanwhile, no less struck by your appearance, gazes on you in great agitation, and drops a few unintelligible hints. To raise your spirits, moreover, she gives you reason to suppose that the part of the Abbey you inhabit is undoubtedly haunted, and informs you that you will not have a single domestic within call. With this parting cordial, she curtsies off. You listen to the sound of her receding footsteps as long as the last echo can reach you, and when, with fainting spirits, you attempt to fasten your door, you discover, with increased alarm, that it has no lock. Oh, Mr. Tilney, how frightful! This is just like a book, but it cannot really happen to me. I am sure your housekeeper is not really Dorothy. Well, what then? Nothing further to alarm perhaps may occur the first night. After surmounting your unconquerable horror of the bed, you will retire to rest and get a few hours' unquiet slumber. But on the second, or at farthest the third night after your arrival, you will probably have a violent storm, peals of thunder so loud as to seem to shake the edifice to its foundation, will roll around the neighboring mountains, and during the frightful gusts of wind which accompany it, you will probably think you discern, for your lamp is not extinguished, one part of the hanging more violently agitated than the rest. Unable, of course, to repress your curiosity in so favorable a moment for indulging in it, you will instantly arise, and throwing your dressing gown around you, proceed to examine the mystery. After a very short search, you will discover a division in the tapestry, so artfully constructed as to defy the minutest inspection. And on opening it, a door will immediately appear, which door, being only secured by massy bars and a padlock, you will, after a few efforts, succeed in opening. And with your lamp in your hand, you will pass through it into a small vaulted room. No, indeed, I should be much too frightened to do any such thing. What? Not when Dorothy has given you to understand that there is a secret subterraneous communication between your apartment and the chapel of St. Anthony, scarcely 2 miles off? Could you shrink from so simple an adventure? No, no, you will proceed into this small vaulted room, and through this into several others, without perceiving anything very remarkable in either. In one, perhaps, there may be a dagger, in another, a few drops of blood, and in a third, the remains of some instrument of torture. But there may be nothing in all of this outside the common way, and your lamp being nearly exhausted, you will return towards your own apartment. In repassing through the small vaulted room, however, your eyes will be attracted towards a large, old-fashioned cabinet of ebony and gold, which, though narrowly examining the furniture before, you had passed unnoticed. Impelled by an irresistible presentiment, you will eagerly advance to it and unlock its folding doors, and search into every drawer, but for some time without discovering anything of importance, and perhaps nothing but a considerable hoard of diamonds. At last, however, by touching a secret spring, an inner compartment will open, a roll of paper appears, you seize it, it contains many sheets of manuscript. You hasten with the precious treasure into your own chamber, but scarcely have you been able to discover, O thou, whomsoever thou mayest be, into whose hands these memoirs of the wretched Matilda may fall, when your lamp suddenly expires in the socket and leaves you in total darkness. Oh, no, no, do not say so. Well, go on. But Henry was too much amused by the interest he had raised to be able to carry it farther. He could no longer command the solemnity, either of subject or voice, and was obliged to entreat her to use her own fancy in the perusal of Matilda's woes. Catherine, recollecting herself, grew ashamed of her eagerness, and began earnestly to assure him that her attention had been fixed without the smallest apprehension of really meeting what he related. Anyway, I love this story a lot. Even though perhaps it is not the strongest of Austen's novels, I think it a very good one. So, I will bid you good day for now, and I will see you around.